Miss Hayes, is your family here? Here to see your success today? The reporter's question pierces through me. The stage lights burn against my skin. I stand alone at the podium. My professional smile stays fixed in place. Camera flashes explode around me. This is it. The Hayes Media Launch event. The dream I've carried since I was 12 years old. Around me, the Westbrook Hotel ballroom waits. 200 industry professionals lean forward. Anticipation fills the air. I scan the VIP section. 3 empty seats stare back at me. I'd reserved them anyway. Written their names on little cards. Mom, Dad, Bennett. Like I believed that somehow, this time would be different. I take a breath. The cameras wait. 200 pairs of eyes lock onto me. No, I say quietly. They've never heard my voice. Not once. A ripple runs through the crowd. I have 5 million listeners. But the 3 people I spent 28 years trying to reach. I pause. My eyes return to the empty seats. The little cards still sitting there. Mom, Dad, Bennett. I tried to be heard from childhood. I continue. Quietly. Politely. Without getting in the way. I whispered into a broken microphone. Even when no one listened. I bought equipment from pawn shops. Even when no one supported me. I worked night shifts while recording. Even when no one said they were proud. The ballroom falls completely silent. And one day, I say softly, I understood. They didn't hear me because my voice was too quiet. They didn't hear me because they didn't want to. Something broke quietly inside me in that moment. No, it didn't break. It set me free. I left home without saying a word. People called me cold. They accused me of abandoning my family. They lectured me that blood is thicker than water. But no one asked the real question. I endured until I couldn't anymore. Then I chose to disappear quietly. Was I wrong? Am I the asshole? I take a sip of water. My hands don't shake anymore. But before I answer that question, before I explain why these seats are empty, why I invited them, and why they didn't come, let me start from the beginning. The memory surfaces. I'm 12 years old, sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor, clutching a toy microphone. I'd saved 3 weeks of allowance for that microphone. Cheap plastic with a cord that connected to nothing. But when I spoke into it, I imagined my voice traveling to people who wanted to hear it. And in breaking news, I whisper to my audience of stuffed animals. They sit arranged in neat rows. Elara Hayes reports that dreams come true if you work hard enough. Cheering erupts from the living room downstairs. My father's booming voice cuts through the walls. Did you see that catch? That's my boy. That's a Hayes man right there. Football highlights again. Bennett's sophomore year game against Central High. It plays on our TV at least twice a week. I press the microphone closer to my lips. I raise my voice just a little, determined to finish my imaginary broadcast. My bedroom door cracks open. Mom pokes her head in. Her finger presses to her lips. Honey, could you quiet down? Your brother's highlights are on. Your father's trying to focus. I lower the microphone. But I know, sweetie. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Maybe later, okay? You know how important these game films are. The door closes with a soft click. Later never came. It never did in our house. Bennett's games. Bennett's trophies. Bennett's future. These formed the foundation of Hayes family conversations. A son carries the Hayes family name. Dad reminded me once. I'd asked why he never came to my school speech competition. He ruffled my hair like I was still 5 instead of 14. Your brother's got real pressure on him, Elara. You're the lucky one. Lucky. From that day on, I learned to record in whispers. I learned to dream quietly. I kept speaking softly into that toy microphone. Long after it broke, the plastic cracked, but my initials, EH, stayed carved into the side. I'd etched them with a safety pin. During a boring Sunday when everyone else watched football, I imagined listeners somewhere. People who leaned in close because they wanted to hear what Elara Hayes had to say. There's an old saying, a voice that goes unheard does not disappear. It gathers strength. Back then, I didn't understand what it meant. I just held on to that broken microphone. I kept using my voice, even when no one heard. I believed that if I achieved enough, they would notice. If I became exceptional enough, even the Hayes household would have to acknowledge me. I believed this with fervent faith. As a child, as a teenager, as a young woman, understanding their dismissal would make it hurt less. I told myself. Being the daughter who understood while Bennett demanded became my identity. My cross to bear. Senior year of high school. I sat at our kitchen table. College brochures spread before me. I'd circled Northwestern's prestigious journalism program in red. Dad, I want to apply here. They have the best broadcasting program in the country. He barely glanced up from his coffee. That won't put food on the table, sweetheart. What about something practical? Business, maybe. Your father's right, Mom added. She patted my hand. Those communication degrees are, well, they're hobbies, really. Maybe something more practical, honey. I applied anyway. Got accepted with a partial scholarship. I watched my parents drive Bennett to Arizona State for his full-ride football orientation. Boxes packed. Everything new. We'll contribute what we can, Dad had told him. But with your scholarship, you shouldn't need much. My partial scholarship left a gap of $20,000. When I showed them the numbers, Dad's face clouded. That's a lot of money for a degree that might not lead anywhere, Elara. I ended up at community college. I worked night shifts at the campus coffee shop. I recorded my first podcast on equipment I bought piece by piece from pawn shops. That night after registration, I sat on my bed. I whispered into my new secondhand microphone, testing the sound levels. My voice was stronger than it had been at 12. Less hopeful, perhaps, but more determined. If no one will listen to me, I said to the empty room, I'll find those who will. 6 years later, 15 million monthly listeners later, I stand on this stage. I scan those empty seats one last time. The words form in my throat, solid and sure, rising from that whisper in my childhood bedroom to fill this crowded ballroom. They didn't come, but everyone else did. High school, senior year. I sat at the kitchen table. College brochures spread before me. I'd circled Northwestern's prestigious journalism program in red. Dad, I want to apply here, I say. They have the best broadcasting program in the country. Dad barely glances up from his coffee. That won't put food on the table, sweetheart. What about something practical? Business, maybe. Something creaks quietly inside my chest. But I keep smiling. The understanding daughter. Your father's right, Mom adds. She pats my hand. Kind voice. Kind hand. But the words are cold. Those communication degrees are, well, they're hobbies, really. Maybe something more practical, honey. Hobbies. My dreams were hobbies. I nod. Sure, I'll think about it. That night, I complete the application alone in my room. Northwestern University. Journalism program. I check the box for partial scholarship. I mail it without telling anyone. 3 months later, the acceptance letter arrives. With partial scholarship. I clutch the envelope. I race down the stairs. Mom, Dad, look, from Northwestern. I burst into the living room. Dad sits on the couch, beer in hand, eyes on the TV. Mom's in the kitchen, preparing dinner. That's nice, honey, Mom says without turning around. But I'm busy right now. Bennett might get a call from Arizona State. Dad doesn't look away from the TV. How much is the scholarship? Half tuition. The gap is $20,000. $20,000. Dad's face clouds. That's a lot of money for a degree that might not lead anywhere, Elara. 2 weeks later, I watch my parents drive Bennett to Arizona State orientation. The SUV's backseat packed full of new things. New laptop, new bedding set, new mini fridge. We'll contribute what we can. Dad claps Bennett's shoulder. But with your scholarship, you shouldn't need much. Full ride, full scholarship. For football talent. I watch from the window as they drive away. I wave. No one waves back. That fall, I enroll in community college. Tuition I can afford myself. Nights, I work at the campus coffee shop. $8.50 an hour. 30 hours a week. Between school and work. I hunt pawn shops. Old microphone. $50. Used audio interface. $75. Someone's discarded headphones. $20. Piece by piece, I build my equipment. Registration night. I sit on my bed. I whisper into my new used microphone. Testing sound levels. My voice is stronger than at 12. Less hope, perhaps, but more determination. If no one will listen to me, I tell the empty room, I'll find those who will. I record my first episode. Title: To the Invisible Daughters. 10 downloads. Next week, 50. The week after, 200. 6 months later, 500. I send my parents the link. Mom, listen to my podcast. I have 500 listeners. Read receipt. No reply. 3 days later, mom texts back. That's nice, honey. 5 words. 3 days. No comment on the content. No indication she listened. 2 years later, the listeners hit 500,000. That night shift. Steam rises from the industrial espresso machine. I pull my third double of the night. The clock reads 2:17 a.m. 3 more hours until I can lock up the shop. Then home to edit tonight's podcast episode. Another all-nighter haze. Claire, the owner, leans against the counter. Her gray hair catches the low light. She divides the day's tips into neat stacks. 500,000 listeners don't record themselves. Pride still feels strange in my voice. Foreign. Like clothing I haven't broken in yet. Claire whistles low. 500,000. Your folks must be bursting with pride. My hands freeze over the portafilter. They don't actually know. What do you mean they don't know? Claire's hands stop. She stares at me. Bill still clutched in her fingers. 500,000 people listen to your voice every week, and your own parents don't? They know, I say. I tamp the coffee grounds with practiced precision. Perfect pressure. But they don't listen. Haze. They're busy, I say quickly. Bennett's senior season. Arizona State. Every weekend. They drive 3 hours to Phoenix for his games. Claire says nothing. Just watches me from across the counter. Her silence weighs more than questions. Last week, I sent them a link. I continue. The espresso drips into the cup. The only sound. The episode that hit the charts. Mom replied 3 days later. I pause. That's nice, honey. That's it. That's it. Claire comes around the counter. Her hand settles on my shoulder. Warm, solid. In a way my mother's hand has never been. Did she listen? I whisper. My voice shrinks. Like a 12-year-old girl. I don't even know if she listened. They've visited my apartment once in 2 years, I say. The words pour out. Like a dam breaking. Dad checked the building's security. Mom worried about the milk in my fridge. I tried to show them my studio. The spare room I converted. Foam panels I stapled to the walls. The microphone stand I assembled from hardware store parts. Mom said, I'm tired. Maybe another time. Tears run down my cheeks. I don't know when they started. 500,000 people listen. My voice breaks. Why won't just 3? Claire pulls me into a hug. Across the shop apron. In the smell of coffee and detergent. They're lost, kid, she whispers. But you're not lost. 500,000 people prove that. The bell chimes. A customer enters. Claire releases me. She looks into my eyes. Your mother may have given birth to you, she says quietly. But she didn't choose to be a mother. That's not about your worth. It's about her choice. That night, after my shift ends, I repeat Claire's words. Didn't choose to be a mother. For the first time, I think maybe it wasn't my failure. 3 weeks later, Thanksgiving. I drive the family sedan along the familiar route to my childhood home. Desert stretches on both sides of the highway. November chill barely touches the Arizona landscape. A billboard for Arizona State football appears. Bennett's number 84 displayed prominently. My fingers tighten on the steering wheel. The Hayes family driveway is crowded with cars when I arrive. Extended family already inside. The scent of turkey and sage greets me as I push open the front door with my overnight bag. There she is. Uncle Robert booms from the living room. The career gal. Still doing that little radio thing? Podcast. I correct automatically. And yes, Dad appears from the kitchen, beer in hand. He claps me on the shoulder. She's got a few listeners now. Hobbies taking off a bit, isn't it, Elara? A few listeners. Last week, 513,942 downloads. In a single day. Where's Mom? I ask, setting my bag down. Upstairs. Preparing for Bennett's engagement party. Engagement party. No one told me. I climb the stairs. In the upstairs hallway, Mom talks with Bennett's fiancée, Brooke. Converting Elara's room into a nursery is perfect. Brooke's voice drifts out. The light from the window is wonderful. My feet stop. My room. She hasn't lived here in years, Mom says. She only stays overnight sometimes. The guest room is enough. I stand frozen on the landing. Overnight bag clutched in my hand. No one asked. No one consulted me. My room. Where I whispered into a broken microphone at 12. Where I secretly nurtured dreams. Erased without a word. Inside my chest. The last thread snaps. Quietly. Completely. At the dinner table, I keep smiling. I congratulate Bennett on his engagement. They ask my opinion on the nursery renovation. I think bright yellow would be nice, I say. My voice stays calm. My heart is far away. That night, I lie in the guest room bed. Not my old room. Not my room anymore. I stare at the ceiling and understand. No matter what I achieve, no matter how successful I become, they won't hear me because they don't want to. 6 years later, I stand on the stage again. The Westbrook Hotel Ballroom. A's media launch event. 3 empty seats stare at me. The reporter asked that first question. Who inspired you to start your company? In that moment, I understood the meaning of that old saying. A voice that goes unheard does not disappear. It gathers strength. At 12, I waited to be heard. At 18, I expected to be heard. At 24, I gave up being heard. And today, at 28, I understand. The unheard voice didn't disappear. The words I whispered into that broken microphone didn't disappear. The episodes I recorded between night shifts didn't disappear. They all gathered strength, quietly, invisibly, into 5 million listeners. I don't need them to hear me anymore. I don't need their approval anymore, because the world is listening. It came from knowing what it feels like to be forgotten. I answer the reporter. Those words are true, but they're no longer pain. They're power. 2 weeks after the press conference, Forbes magazine sits on my apartment coffee table. 30 under 30 blazes across the cover. My photo takes up a quarter of page 18. Self-made media entrepreneur Elara Hayes revolutionizes podcasting. The caption beneath a shot of me in my downtown LA apartment, surrounded by recording equipment. My phone chimes with an email notification. Dre@hotmail.com. Subject: We saw your interview with Terry Gross. My heart stutters. I open it, hands shaking. Elara, it begins. Your mother and I listened to your Fresh Air interview yesterday. You spoke well. We're proud to see a Hayes making such an impression in the business world. Warmth blooms in my chest. Finally, after all these years, they see me. I read the next paragraph. On a personal note, Bennett is going through a tough time. He was cut from training camp. His son's private school tuition is due. He could use some support, about $3,000 monthly until he lands on his feet. Since you're doing so well now, family should help family, right? The warmth collapses into a cold, hard knot. I close the email without replying. I turn the magazine face down on the table. Some things never change, but I have. 2 a.m. Dad's email glows on my laptop screen. The timestamp mocks me. 3 years of silence, broken by 23 carefully crafted sentences about family pride, punctuated by a request for $3,000 monthly to support Bennett. I trace my finger over the screen. I feel nothing but cool glass beneath my fingertip. The apartment sits quiet around me. My space, bought with my success. No football trophies here, just awards they never acknowledged, books they never believed I'd write. We're so proud of what you've accomplished. My father wrote, proud. The word sits bitter on my tongue, like old coffee. 30 seconds on Google would have shown them my accomplishments years ago, but they waited until Bennett needed money. I typed my response slowly, weighing each word like currency. Polite acknowledgement of their newfound interest. Brief updates on my upcoming projects. Nothing about money. I sign off, not with love, but with, I'm building something that matters. The cursor hovers over send. One deep breath. Click. Within hours, his response arrives. Less polished this time. Did you see the part about Bennett's situation? 2 more emails follow that evening. 5 the next day. Each one less measured than the last. Desperation seeping through digital cracks. I answer none of them. A week passes. The receptionist's voice crackles through my office intercom. Miss Hayes, your brother is here. My stomach tightens. I stand. I smooth my charcoal pencil skirt with damp palms. Send him in. Bennett fills the doorway of my corner office, still carrying himself like the star quarterback. His designer jacket hangs loose around shoulders that once bulldozed defensive linemen. His eyes narrow when he spots the view of downtown Los Angeles behind me. Nice digs, he says without a smile. Must be nice. What can I do for you, Bennett? I gesture toward the chair across from my desk. He remains standing. Dad's emails. You've been ignoring them. I responded to his first one. Not about what matters. He paces 3 steps. He stops at my bookshelf, where my first microphone sits in a glass case. You know I lost my coaching position. The office beyond my glass walls has gone quiet. My team pretends not to watch, but I feel their attention like a physical presence. I heard, I say. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay bills. His voice rises. You've got millions of listeners while my son eats instant noodles. What kind of aunt does that make you? The word aunt lands like a slap. Bennett has a 9-year-old I've met exactly twice. Both times, he was too busy talking football with Dad to introduce us properly. You haven't called me his aunt since he was born. The words escape before I can catch them. This isn't about that. He slams his palm against my desk. This is about family. About helping each other when times get tough. When times got tough for me, where were you? My voice remains even. Practiced. When I worked night shifts for college, when I launched Hayes Media alone, that's different. How? It just is. He falters. A woman? I ask quietly. Or because I didn't play football? His face flushes. Family wouldn't say things like this. Family, I repeat. Family wouldn't have told me to be quiet when I was 12 and sharing my dreams. Family would have helped with college tuition. Family wouldn't have converted my room into a nursery without asking. He says nothing. I won't send money, Bennett, I say. My voice is quiet, firm. But if your son truly needs help, I pause. Tell him to contact me directly. If he wants to know me as his aunt, I'll meet him. But not as an ATM through you. Bennett's jaw tightens. When Dad hears about this. Dad didn't hear for 28 years. I cut him off. I don't think he'll start now. He turns on his heel toward the door. Before he leaves, he looks back. When did you become so cold? I look out the window. The Los Angeles skyline spreads below. I didn't become cold, I say quietly. I learned to value myself. The door closes. The office slowly returns to normal sounds. Keyboard typing. Phones ringing. I sit in my chair. My hands don't shake. My chest doesn't ache. Just quiet peace. Claire was right. I'm not lost. 3 days after the press conference, I sit alone in my studio. Clean, professional space surrounded by soundproof walls. The pawn shop equipment is long gone, but that broken microphone still sits on the shelf. The EH initials still visible. I press record. New episode. I have the title already. The voice they ignored. I speak about college applications, about converted bedrooms, about empty seats. I never mention names, not father or mother or brother. Instead, they become a parent who couldn't see past gender expectations, a sibling raised to believe the world owed him everything. The power lies in what remains unsaid, in the story itself, achingly familiar to countless women who recognize the pattern. When I finish, I sit in silence for several minutes. Then I press publish. The file uploads to our server. Simple title: The Voice They Ignored. By morning, 1 million downloads. By evening, 5 million. Within 48 hours, 10 million people have heard my story, without hearing my family's names. The first call comes from Dad. At work, voice trembling with barely contained fury. Take it down, he demands. People know you're talking about us. Am I? I keep my tone conversational. I never mentioned anyone by name. Everyone will assume. Only if it sounds familiar, Dad. The word feels strange in my mouth. Formal. Distant. Only if it sounds like something you do. He hangs up. Mother tries next. Tears evident in her wobbling voice. We've always loved you, Elara. How could you say such hurtful things? I didn't say they were about you, Mom. Her silence confirms everything. Bennett texts a single line. Real family wouldn't air dirty laundry. I don't respond to any of them. Within days, national media picks up the story. The untold truth behind Hayes Media's founder reads one headline. America's forgotten daughters speak out, declares another. My inbox fills with thousands of letters, from women sharing identical stories, of invisibility within their own families. Industry colleagues send quiet messages of support. My staff works with renewed purpose, understanding now the mission behind our network's commitment to amplifying silenced voices. Later, I sit at my desk, reviewing the week's analytics. This episode has become our most downloaded content ever. Comments flood our website, each one a variation on the same theme. I thought I was the only one. A notification appears on my screen. Bennett has posted on social media a lengthy screed about ungrateful siblings and the importance of family loyalty. I close the tab without reading past the first sentence. His words no longer matter. Instead, I open a blank document. I begin responding to one particular email from a 16-year-old girl who wrote, "How do I find my voice when no one in my family wants to hear it?" My answer flows easily now, not from bitterness or revenge, but from the quiet certainty of someone who finally understands her own worth. Start by whispering, I write, then speak a little louder each day. The right people will listen, even if they aren't the ones you were born to. I sign my name and press send. I feel the last chains of obligation fall away. The family who ignored my voice for 28 years can now listen with the rest of the world. Or not at all. For the first time in my life, their choice doesn't matter anymore. Morning light filters through my apartment windows, casting a golden glow across the wall of awards. 3 years since that viral press conference. 3 years since I blocked their numbers. I trace my fingers across the spines of books lining my shelves. Treasures I've collected one by one. Each one is a small rebellion against the childhood home where football trophies were the only achievements worth displaying. My downtown LA apartment hums with quiet contentment, a sanctuary built entirely on my terms. Hayes Media occupies the top floor of a glass building 6 blocks from here. 15 shows now. 50 million monthly downloads. Numbers that should matter. Yet what strikes me most this morning is the silence. How comfortable it feels after years of striving to be heard. A notification pings. An unfamiliar email address. The subject line catches me. From Bennett's son. My coffee cup freezes halfway to my lips. I haven't heard that name spoken aloud in my home for years. Dear Aunt Elara, the message begins. I'm Mason. I'm 12 now. I listened to your podcast about invisible daughters. I think I understand why you don't talk to my dad anymore. Our family treated you badly. I want to be different. Could we meet? Just us. My thumb hovers over delete. The Hayes family pattern. Reach out only when they need something. But he's 12. Just a boy. I suggest a coffee shop near my office. Public. Brief. Controlled. 2 days later, he sits across from me. All gangly limbs and uncertain smiles. Bennett's jawline, but softer eyes. He clutches a small box wrapped in what looks like Sunday comics. Dad doesn't know I'm here, he says. He pushes the package toward me. Mom helped me find this. She said you might want it back. The paper crinkles beneath my fingers. Inside rests a small plastic microphone, cracked along one side, yellow tape holding it together. My initials, EH, carved into the base with a safety pin. During a particularly boring Sunday when everyone else watched football. Where did you find this? My voice catches. Mom found it when they were cleaning Grandpa's garage. She said it was yours. 20 years collapse. I'm 12 again, whispering stories into this worthless plastic toy, believing someone, somewhere, would want to hear them. I listen to all your shows, Mason says. He fidgets with his straw. The one about invisible daughters made me cry. Dad never talks about you. But sometimes I hear him and Grandpa arguing about you when they think I'm playing video games. Something breaks loose inside me. For the first time in years, tears blur my vision. Thank you for bringing this. The words barely squeeze past the tightness in my throat. Could I ask you something? Mason leans forward. How did you know your voice mattered when nobody listened? The question strikes with such familiar precision. I know instantly this boy carries the Hayes family curse of invisibility. Not the golden child, the watcher, the quiet one. I reach across the table. I squeeze his hand. I didn't know if it mattered, I tell him. I just knew I'd disappear completely if I didn't use it. Dad says I should play football. The confession rushes out, but I'd rather write stories. His eyes dart to gauge my reaction. You don't have to be like anyone else, Mason, I tell him. Just listen and tell the truth. That's all any voice really needs. His smile breaks like sunrise. Could I learn to record them someday? Like you did? When you're ready, I promise. I'll teach you. Later that evening, I place the broken microphone on my shelf, between my Peabody Award and the Forbes magazine feature. The contrast jolts me. Plastic toy beside crystal trophy. Beginning and culmination. I press record on my personal journal, the one show no one else will ever hear. Not every wound needs an apology to heal, I whisper. I cradle the microphone in my palm. Sometimes the greatest freedom comes from realizing how strong the silence made you. I pause, remembering Mason's earnest face. And sometimes healing arrives through the ones who watched and chose to be better. My phone chimes with a voice message from a number I don't recognize. I started recording my own stories. Aunt Elara. Mason's voice. Clear and hopeful. I smile. The cycle breaks. Not with a shout, but a whisper. That broken microphone still sits on my shelf. The EH initials barely visible now. It reminds me. A voice that goes unheard does not disappear. It gathers strength. And someday that voice might change the world. If you feel unheard today, keep whispering. The right people will listen. If this story touched your heart, help it reach others who need to hear it. There are millions of invisible voices waiting to know they're not alone.